Once there was, and then there wasn't, and then there was again. A time when women had wings. And it was a time also when there was peace between the men and the women all over the world. Except this isn't a story about the women with wings. This is a story about the birds. And it was a time when the birds had wings, except their wings had no feathers. They were naked. Now we can think of bats. Bats, though, have fur, little furry feathers. The birds had no fur. They were naked, just their wings. And they began to look at each other, and sometimes they would look at the women with their beautiful wings, and they would think, where's some clothes for us? This doesn't feel good, and we'd like to look good too. And so after a period of time, they came together, and all the birds had a conference. And they talked and talked. What can we do? We want to look as beautiful as those women. We want feathers. We want beauty. We want color. We're tired of being naked. And they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. And finally, a great condor, one of those carrion birds like the vultures, said, well, we could fly past the blueness of the atmosphere. We could fly up into the stars. We could fly to Great Spirit, and we could ask Great Spirit, please, will you give us something beautiful to wear because we are naked? And the bird said, yes, 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 that's the answer. That's what we can do. Well, who's going to do it? And no one wanted to do it. Everyone, little hummingbird, well, I can fly long distance and I fly fast, but I can't do it. And the parrot, I can't do it. And all of the birds, no one could do it. They all had many, many reasons. And so the great condor says, after all the birds give their reasons, Condor says, all right, I will try. I will fly past the blueness of the atmosphere, into the sky, past the stars, past those other planets, and I will speak, if I can get there, to Great Spirit. I am scared. I have to fly past the sun. I'm scared my wings will burn, my neck will burn, my head, I will shrivel. I will try. And so the condor begins the journey. And the other birds, they're talking and talking, and they're excited and happy. And Condor is flying. Long journey, and Condor's wings are getting quite tired, even his magnificent, magnificent wings. And he continues to fly past the blueness of the atmosphere and into the deep darkness. And he is traveling past Mars and Venus and Neptune and Uranus and the beautiful moons of Saturn, and keeps flying and flies close to the sun. And he is so tired and so hot. And finally comes to Great Spirit. And he, with great respect, says, oh, Great Spirit, I am so honored to be here. Please, please, I had come on a mission for my community. Please, we are so much wanting some clothes for our wings, clothes for our body. We are naked. We want the beauty of those women, the women who are clothed and have wings. And And Great Spirit says, wonderful, no problem. And there is a beautiful, magnificent trunk. And Great Spirit opens the trunk, and Vulture looks inside, and inside the trunk are so many beautiful feathers and so many beautiful garments he could see that the birds could climb into to cloak their body in beautiful feathers. And so Great Spirit says, please, Vulture, you can carry these for me down to the community of the birds. And so Vulture begins the long and arduous task of picking up in his beak, one by one, the beautiful clothes that Great Spirit is giving to the birds, and begins to travel down past the stars, past the planets, through the darkness of space, into the atmosphere of Earth, and closer to the birds, and begins to deliver, one by one, each of the beautiful garments of the birds. The parrot, the hummingbird, the crow and the raven, the mighty eagle, each of the garments. And Great Condor travels back and forth many times to take out of the trunk the garments and deliver them to the community of birds. And at last, every bird is clothed so magnificently. Oh, the male peacock, he is strutting around. And the female, she is also very happy in her cloak of brown and tan feathers. And there's only one bird left who has no feathers, and that's the vulture, the great condor. And the other birds are saying, well, thank you, Condor. We're very happy. Goodbye. And Condor is looking as the birds begin to depart in their beautiful garments and thinking, uh-oh, I hope there's something left for me. And after all the other birds leave, some who have said thank you, and some who've just said bye, and some who've just left, strutting, Condor begins the journey again, up through the blueness of the atmosphere, into the darkness of space, past the planets, past the stars, and again to Great Spirit. And he says, Great Spirit, where are my clothes? And Great Spirit points into the large trunk, and there is only one garment left. And Great Spirit says, well, this is what's left. And Condor looks and says, oh, it's not very pretty. And Great Spirit says, this is what's left. And Condor says, okay, I will try it on. And he picks it up in his beak, looks at it, and it is very small. And Condor says, this isn't going to fit me, Great Spirit. My neck will stick out, and what will cover my head, and my ankles will show. And Great Spirit says, this is what's left. And Condor begins to climb into the feathers. And sure enough, it is way too small. And Condor's ankles are showing, and the head is bare, and the neck is exposed. And yet, the cloak of feathers is covering Great Condor. And it is not perhaps as beautiful as the red-headed woodpecker or the crowned parrot, and yet it is the beautiful colors of earth and air. And so Condor says, with great respect to Great Spirit, thank you. Thank you for giving us these garments, and returns. And he is flying out through space, down through the blueness of the atmosphere, flying. And he's flying, and he sees the other birds flying. Oh, and they are so proud in the beauty of their feathers. And they are talking and laughing, and some have even had little babies who have their feathers now. There's bluebirds with feathers, and oh, so much beauty of the birds. And Vulture is flying and looking at all the other birds and looking at himself and saying, oh, my clothes aren't so beautiful. And he is flying, and Condor is saying, oh, the birds don't remember me. And he is looking at himself. And then Condor says, Great Spirit, why do I feel this way? And Great Spirit says, thank you, Condor. You have served your friends. Now, this is where this story ends. What does this story mean? I asked Dr. Dervish, a practitioner within our SoulWork, one of our psychiatrists, and he said this is an important story. So I tell this story, and perhaps we can talk a little bit about what it means from a SoulWork perspective. So Sophia, you've heard this story of the condor. You've heard me tell it a couple of times now, and I'm wondering what it evokes for you in a SoulWork context.
Okay. When I heard about a story of a turkey vulture, a condor, I was attracted to it. And I think of condors as being, and turkey vultures, the disregarded birds that we look down on them because they eat dead things and they're not pretty and they have red necks and spindly legs and all that. They're kind of outcasts in a way. And so if I were to take that story on myself as a dream in a way, and be the condor, that when you told the story, I heard the condor seeing a real problem in the community, which was that the birds wanted to be more beautiful and colorful, and they didn't have feathers like the humans did. And as the condor, I feel like I sometimes come up with creative ideas for making the community more beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think of the steps, what would be needed, who should be involved to do it. And I usually, or sometimes embark, I jump in, I say, okay, let's try this new project. In this case, the vulture came back without beautiful feathers for herself. And some of the birds disregarded her and weren't able to express gratitude. And I thought, well, what part of me is that vulture, you know? And so is it a part of being a woman or the feminine at large? I think of women, you know, through mothering or through intuition or through a quiet hands-on service. And I think of the condor as those parts of myself, those parts of my world that are not so much respected. And they may not get the same economic respect or have the same economic opportunities, and they may be more invisible. And recently had an opportunity to go to a trip to Guatemala as part of a compassionate listening delegation. And we were invited into a Mayan school for 2 weeks. And into the Mayan culture, they gave us an incredible experience. And I could not help but seeing the beauty in so many parts of this intact culture. And when we said, how can we possibly be helping you? They said, by seeing us, by seeing our beauty. And I think it's natural for us, it's true for us to see beauty in other people, in all other people. It's very natural. And I think all that's needed is to see the beauty and to be grateful for it, to be gives thanks for being seen, give thanks for seeing. And that helps to form community and the heart within community. There is a story, a true story, of one of the women in our delegation. She got the announcement, not planned on doing this trip, and knew that night she needed to go. She had a dream, and in the dream was a beautiful red, beautiful, long spanned, winged, red, deep, dark red bird. And something was important about that. And she was down in Guatemala and saw some turkey vultures, which are not beautiful and red, but those are the birds of my dream, and symbolizing the condor and the vultures. And she came back and made a mosaic of this beautiful red bird. So here we have this story about the condor being in service to the community, needing to be seen and respected, which is true for the Mayans and other indigenous peoples, is what I'm feeling. And I feel also that trip for me is helping me to discover the indigenous in myself, or to love and know that being in community, connection of the hearts, of making things with my hands, of the language, of the spirit. And I think we all possess these qualities, many kinds of communities, but here is an intact one that I came to have great respect and great love for. And I think my friend's dream about the red bird is seeing the beauty of the condor with feathers, the condor who's respected, the condor who is part of the community. And so it is my hope that even though this story stopped with the condor having kind of a skimpy suit, that it is part of our creating something even more beautiful in our society, economically, socially, and it's part of a conversation, that there's a prophecy of the condors and the eagles, the condors of South America and the eagles of North America, meeting and being in conversation as we were in Guatemala. And it excites me what this conversation might produce. But I know that it begins with gratitude.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.